Hello, hello. This is a new TED teaching, or teaching talk, not TED. Sorry. Today we are with Fernando Gatica. He's joining us from Mexico, from Acapulco, and we're just talking about how to teach English to Spanish speakers. So I want everybody to know Fernando in the first place, and there is not better way to know him than watching one of his videos, for example, and look
¿Cómo se
at
dice
his
letra
approach.
en inglés? Letter, lyrics o writing. Las tres son correctas. Déjenme explicarles la diferencia. La traducción de letra es letter cuando te refieres al abecedario. Por ejemplo, ¿cuál es esta letra? What's this letter? La traducción de letra es lyrics cuando te refieres a las palabras de una canción. ¿Conoces la letra de esta canción? Do you know the lyrics to the song? Y la traducción de letra es writing cuando te refieres a cómo alguien escribe. Fernando, tu letra es fea. Fernando, your writing is ugly. ¿Cómo se dice letra en inglés?
All right, so this is Fernando. We have him here on our live today. Hey, what's up, Fernando?
What's up,
Uh,
Hernán? It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
no, no, no. It's a pleasure to have you here. All right, so Fernando, as I said, he is based in Mexico at the moment. So I'm based in Ireland. That's the good thing about technologies.
Yeah.
Fernando is a native speaker. I'm not a native speaker, but as you can see, we can communicate, and that's the most when we speak languages. I've always said to my students, you have to worry about being an expert user in your mother language or in your native language or in your language one, however you want to call it. And then on your second language, you have to worry about being better every day, but being able to communicate. So, to those of you that are coming to this live, again, this is Fernando. Fernando, can you tell us a bit about you? Where did you learn English? Why did you become a teacher? Was it a mistake? Do you regret it? Come on, tell
I,
us
I
about
don't
you.
regret it actually. Well, when I was 2 years old, my mother immigrated to the United States. So and even before I was a baby, she would read, books to me in English. We would watch cartoons in English. But I think moving to the United States is where I really, you know, started to be involved a lot with English because, well, life over there is in English. I had American friends and things like that. And I started speaking Spanish at the age of 1, but I mastered English first. I think I knew English a lot more than Spanish at the age of like 3, because I was talking to American kids all the time, taking classes with them. And it was just in preschool and in the neighborhood in the park. So I learned English in North Carolina, the United States. I studied there. I grew up there. I worked there. I made my friends. I made friends there, and that's where I learned English. And then at the age of 20, I came back to Mexico, and I was looking for a job. I had already worked at different places, but um, here where I live, it's a tourist area. I was a waiter in 2 different restaurants, and usually when vacation season stops, so do the high levels of income. When you're a waiter, you rely a lot on tourism, at least here in the city. So I saw that the tourism, was going down. I was like, okay, I need to find a different job. So I was looking for jobs where I could benefit from where I could benefit using my English. And a job appeared to be an English teacher at Harmon Hall. Harmon Hall in Mexico is or was one of the most prestigious English schools here. When I was working there, they had about 70 schools in Mexico, and I think even a school or two in Guatemala. So everybody knows Harmon Hall as prestigious, and I was very fortunate that they accepted me without any experience and without any qualifications. And they told me like, okay, we will train you and we will get you certified so that you can teach English. And that's what they did. You know, I got first I had to get my TOEFL. I had to get my TOEFL so I could prove that I knew English. But for them, that was an important thing. And then I started getting like certifications from Cambridge, the TKT and things like that, you know, that gives me some validation to be a teacher, to prove that I can teach English as a second language. And I don't regret it. I don't regret it, especially when I separated myself from these schools. Now I just do things, you know, my way. I make my own groups. I teach my students. Like I don't have a director. I don't have a coordinator. I am the teacher and the director and the coordinator and the cleaning guy.
All right, all right. So do you do everything based online, or do you have like a like an institution or a face to face environment?
I right now I am doing everything online, but I do have plans on opening up a school here and with more teachers and things like that.
All right, perfect. Is this your main income, Fernando? Because, for example, I am a teacher. I am an English teacher, and I've been teaching for, I don't know, the past 12 years, I'll say. But this is not my main income at the moment. I have a full time job here in Ireland, and the full time job is in education, but it's not teaching. I am a social pedagogue, which is a totally different concept,
Yeah.
and I work with Irish children, and yeah, it's beside the point now. But is this your main income? Like, is that what you do for living actually?
Yes, this is my main income. You know, I do other things like flip things, buy things on the internet and sell them for a higher price. Um, I also, you know, make money working with different companies on my
What
social.
an average millennial would do,
Yeah, yeah,
basically.
exactly, exactly. So yeah, but this is my main income. This is what I live off of.
Okay, okay, very good, very good. So how long ago did you start doing everything on your own, like as an independent, if you want to label it that way?
I started January of last year, so
Okay.
almost 2 years independent.
All right, all right. Always have has it always been in Acapulco?
Yeah, always in Acapulco. I like it here because everything is cheap and it's beautiful. It's kind of dangerous, but it's really beautiful. And where I live, it's kind of like a gated community, so I don't have to worry about, you know, getting robbed or getting kidnapped.
Yeah, yeah. It's like a conjunto cerrado for those of you that are watching us from Colombia.
Yeah, como que
Um,
cerrado. I love that word.
Yeah, it's that's how we will say it in Colombia. Obviously, in Colombia we have loads of them for the same reasons. So
Yeah,
when you live in a conjunto cerrado, you feel safer. I
definitely.
used to live in one of those when I lived in Colombia last time. All right, Fernando, and tell us about your students. Are they all from Mexico, or you have students from all around the globe?
I have students all over North and South and Central America. Um, I don't really work with people from Europe because of the time difference. You know, it's like 6, 7, 8 hours of difference in time. So it's usually not convenient for them. That's why I stick here to North America, where there's only like 1 or 2 hour, there's only a 1 or 2 hour difference in time. But yeah, I work with everybody from, you know, from zero. Like if you don't know anything, I can help you. Or if you are like an advanced student and you want to like learn professional terms, I can help you with that. I also prepare students for the TOEFL and for the IELTS.
I'm muted here. I'm muted. Okay, Fernando. And do you do one-to-ones or just group classes?
I mostly only do group classes. I
Okay.
do have two students who are 101, and they usually live in they're usually from the United States because they're trying to learn English as fast as possible. So, you know, 101 courses are the most, the best way to do that.
Okay, okay, perfect. All right. Before we go into the main subject, which is teaching English to Spanish speakers, I want to see this video about how to say cómo se habla inglés, right?
Yeah.
Adjetivos cortos y
Is that the one? Yeah. Let me just update it so I can get it from the beginning.
hablar inglés es más difícil que hablar español. Speaking English is more difficult than speaking Spanish. Ok, muy bien. ¿Y cómo se dice hablar español es más fácil que hablar inglés? Speaking Spanish is more easy than speaking English. Actually, lo correcto sería speaking Spanish is easier than speaking English. ¿Easier? Sí, en inglés hay tres tipos de adjetivos. Adjetivos largos, adjetivos cortos y adjetivos irregulares. Los adjetivos irregulares son como good, que se convierte en better, y bad en worse. Con los largos usa more más el adjetivo. Más difícil, more difficult. Más interesante, more interesting. Con los adjetivos cortos usa el adjetivo y agrégale er. Más fácil, easier. Más rápido, faster. Ahora tú, que estás viendo este video, ¿cómo diría mi hermana es más joven que yo en inglés? Escribe tu respuesta en los comentarios. Suerte.
Okay, we have no comments here, or we actually do if people want to throw the comment there and tell us how to say that in English. All right, Fernando, what is it? You say most of your students are from Central America and North America, as what I'm picking up.
Yes.
Have you ever had any non-Spanish speakers in your class?
No, I don't think so. All of my students, their first language is Spanish, definitely.
Okay. We have Daniel Gonzalez there, Fernando. My sister is younger than me. Is that right?
Nice, Daniel. You got it correct, man.
All right, Daniel. Very good. Very good. Okay, so so most of your students or all of your students are Spanish speakers, right?
Yes, yes, yes,
So
yes.
do you use Spanish in your classes, like we're seeing it in the videos, or is it just English, just
Yeah,
target language?
I do use Spanish in my classes. You know, where I was working, speaking Spanish in class was like prohibited, and I was like, why? You know, why is that prohibited when it could help students, especially, you know, the beginners,
Yeah.
when they don't know much English? Like, how are they gonna understand what I'm saying if I'm not, you know, using some Spanish? Of course, there are ways to teach your students just in English, but I feel like using Spanish sometimes could ease up some of the explanations. And you know, some students that like they just learn by translating. You know, some students they learn by listening, some students they learn by reading, some students they learn by watching, and some they learn by translating. So I have to be able to give my students what they need. You know, I had to meet their needs. I remember I had a student, her name is Teresa. I hope she's not watching this. I had a student, her name was Teresa. And one day I didn't go to class. So I was sick and she had a substitute teacher. And the substitute teacher went in there with Teresa and her group, and she was teaching her a word. No, the teacher was teaching her a word. I think it was schedule, and 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 she was like, "What's schedule?" And schedule, you know, like the things you do every day. Oh, like activities. No, 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 no. Like, you know, the time you have these activities. And she was like, she's just confused. She's like, and he was like using different techniques, you know, showing her pictures, showing her demonstrations, drawing for her, and she got really angry. I'm like, solo dímelo en español, and she got angry with him. And I was like, and when he was telling me this, I was like, dude, why didn't you just tell her in Spanish? Is you could have just continued with the class. You probably wasted 5-10 minutes trying to explain one word to her when you could have just translated to her and continued on with the class. And he was like, well, you know, they don't allow us to speak Spanish. I'm like, and do you think that's okay? And he's like, maybe not, man, maybe not. So, and that day, you know, it changed my perspective completely. You know, some students have different needs, and you know, we have to make sure that we meet their needs. And I well, I think that's the most important thing in a class, at least.
Yes, especially when they're adults, and obviously they have different needs, but they also have different interests. And
Yeah,
I like, for example, I have had students that just want to learn English not as a second language, but as a foreign language, just to visit the states and be able to ask questions at the airport, for example, or to order something at the restaurant, and that's all they care about. They
yeah,
don't want to speak English; they just want to back themselves up with English as a foreign language. And that's what we have to keep in mind. That's why I'm with you. I think we should use Spanish or whatever their mother language is in the classroom. And this will bring us to a different debate. And it's the debate about having to be a native speaker or having to speak only English and not their mother language. How will you do it? What do you think about that? Do you think that teachers must be native in order to teach English, or do you
definitely not.
consider that non-native teachers can do a good job as well?
Definitely not. I think that is such a ridiculous thing to say because there are different accents around the world, you know. Like even the United States, you know, a New York accent is not like a Georgia accent. You know, it's much different. So why is it so important for you to hear a specific type of accent? I think the most important thing in terms of sounding like a native, the important thing is that you pronounce words correctly, you know, not necessarily have a native accent. It's kind of ridiculous. But of course, you know, we use that, and I think schools use that as a marketing tool.
Marketing tool, yes, 100%.
Yeah. So, and students eat it up. They eat it up, man.
Oh, of course, yes, yes, yes.
They
Even some English speakers, they asked me if I could teach them Spanish just because I'm native. But here comes another debate. I am native from Colombia, and over here everybody wants to learn Spanish from Spain. And obviously it's way different. Like I have loads of friends from Spain now, but it's way different. Like we can't even speak Spanish ourselves. Like I tell them, you know what, speak English because we so many difference. Like to the carpeta for tapete, for example, which is carpet or rug,
yeah.
they say moqueta, and I'm
What?
like, what the hell?
Yeah,
They don't say piso, they say suelo instead of floor. For floor, they say suelo, they don't say piso. Piso is the whole flat or apartment.
yeah.
So it's so many differences, like, and it comes really hard to satisfy Europeans when they want to learn Spanish from Spain.
Well, you
So
know, what's interesting is that, well, at least in my opinion, and the opinion of a lot of people who speak Spanish, is that Colombia has the most beautiful accent. Like, obviously, there are different accents in Colombia,
yeah.
but the ones that we hear are like the most beautiful. And I think even us as Mexicans, we can agree that Colombians have the best accent.
All
So
right.
whoever
Thanks
doesn't
for
want to
that.
learn Colombian Spanish, they're missing out on the best type of Spanish.
Yeah, thanks for that. I'm pretty sure most of my audience will be happy with that because lots of them are from Colombia. So
Uh,
yeah, thanks for that. It's sad now, and it's also something we don't value when we learn English. English is way easier than Spanish. I just did once. I did an exercise about a straw. I was like, okay, this is a straw in English, and it's a straw in down the UK, in Ireland, in Australia, in Canada, in United States. Everywhere where you go, it'll be a straw. But if you go to Mexico, it's a popote. If you go to Colombia, it's a pitillo. And don't ever say pitillo to a Mexican because he'll kick the hell out of you.
yeah,
So
that's funny
it's
as hell.
yeah. And if you go to Spain, I think in Spain it's pajita. And I did the exercise, and I told my students, leave a comment below. How will you call this in your country? And I got like 20 different names for
Yes,
this. 20
yes,
different
yes.
names.
I
And
don't know.
that's, if we bring it to English now, we have in English, we have the universality of English, something like that. I forgot the exact word from Noam Chomsky.
Yeah,
And that's basically that we have an airplane is an airplane anywhere in the world, anywhere in any speaking English speaking country is an airplane.
yeah,
Whereas we have different words for different things. Even in Spanish, in where I'm from in Colombia, I'm from Pereira, we'll say candela for the lighter. But if you go to the coast, for example, they'll say briquettes.
Yeah,
And if you go to a different country, a different city, sorry, they'll say mechero. And I think in Bogota they have a different word. I don't remember. Maybe if there is someone from Bogota, they can tell us. So it's Spanish is so hard, like so hard.
yeah, there are too many words for the same thing. And in English, it's just like the two words for the same thing usually.
Oh yes, all right. I'm gonna throw this question to you, Fernando. They say Gustavo Osorio. He says, "Hello, teachers. I have a question. What do you think about influence of the environment in the English learning process?"
Influence of
I
the,
believe I believe he's on about immersion. I'd say.
yeah.
What do you think about that? Is that important? Is there a way to do a digital immersion like? Because back in the days, you had to travel in order to do an immersion process. Is it possible to do an immersion process?
Yeah, um, when I came back to Mexico, I struggled a lot because I didn't know much Spanish. And I know it's shameful because I'm Mexican. I should know Spanish, but I didn't. I admit it. I'm sorry. And when I came here, I was struggling. I couldn't talk to people on the street. I couldn't make friends, and it was depressing because I'm a social person. I like to socialize with people, and that kind of like brought me down. So, once I started learning all of these teaching techniques, I decided to apply them to myself, but in Spanish. And so, what I did is I stopped listening to music in English. I stopped reading books in English. I stopped watching videos in English, and everything was in Spanish. Only music in Spanish: Jose Jose, Luis Miguel, reggaeton, all that stuff. Books in Spanish: Gabriel Garcia Marquez, and all the famous English books, but in Spanish. And only videos in Spanish, like comedians and YouTube videos and things like that. And I did that for 1 year. And that year is where my Spanish, exploded. I learned so many new words. I made a lot of new friends. I was participating more in family discussions. And I think now, thanks to technology, students have the option to do that, but they have to do obviously in English. Don't listen to music in Spanish anymore, just English. No novelas, just sitcoms in English, and read books in English. That's how you can definitely submerge yourself in English and find people to practice with on Facebook and Instagram and things like that. It's easy, it's fun. It just requires a little bit of effort. That's all.
I have myself a WhatsApp community with my students. It's a public one, and it's just the only aim of that. It's immersion. So they will whoever joins, they know that we only have three rules: only English messages or voice notes or whatever, no politics, no religion. Other than that, you can freely talk about whatever the hell you want. And it
That's
works. It works. Some days people don't participate, but other days people participate a lot. And that's just a way. If you come to the States, if you come to Ireland, for example, I have my WhatsApp groups with my workplace, with different social groups, football teams, wherever I join. We
yeah,
all have a WhatsApp group and we all communicate in English, obviously, because it's Ireland. And it's the same story. The group I have in WhatsApp, they all communicate in English. Some of them do it with mistakes, some of them do it with no mistakes, but they all communicate, which is the point. After
exactly,
you communicate, it's like a baby. A baby starts talking, he will communicate his way, her way, and then as he or she grows, he will improve and make it perfect, right?
exactly.
So and I think adding to the answer for Gustavo, I think it is very important, the influence of the environment or the immersion process. But nowadays you don't have to leave your country in order to join an immersion process. As
Exactly.
Fernando was saying, you can watch YouTube shows, you can read the news, you can do whatever you want in English or in your target language. Like myself, I'm learning Italian, so I do loads of my things in Italian in
Yeah.
order to pick up that Italian, and it works.
Hernán, could you tell me and tell us a little bit more about your WhatsApp group? Like how does it go? Like, is it just in the group, or do students like in exchange numbers and they start practicing by themselves? Do you send a topic every day? Like, how do you go about your WhatsApp group?
It's just pure natural. Like you just I just created the book, the group. Sorry, I invited people. I some days I just throw the link on my Instagram stories, and I'm like, hey lads, if you want to practice your English, join this group. And yes, they change numbers. I know, I've read that some of them, they live in the same city, so they have agreed to have a coffee together and practice their English.
Nice. That's cool.
And some of them are watching. I know that Daniel, for example, it's in the WhatsApp group. I think Gustavo is in the WhatsApp group as well, and they just practice. That's it. Sometimes I throw topics, but I try to participate the least I can, because I don't have much time, so
Yeah,
the group can't be dependent on me. That's just an English speaking group with people from all around the globe. We've had students from Argentina, not even students, like not all of them are my students. They're just people that want to learn English.
that's
And
great.
and that's just like an immersion group. It used to be a Telegram group, but for some reason in Latin America, Telegram is not that used. So I emigrated to WhatsApp, and it worked. It's better now that it's on WhatsApp.
So the
We
majority of students are from Latin America.
I have students from Latin America and from Europe, from Spain, and yeah, most of them. But mine are mostly from South America. I have a couple of them from Mexico, and I want to tell everybody that is watching us to follow Fernando's account. Is arroba English with Fernando, right? At
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you.
at English with Fernando, because you have to get used, lads. You have to get used to different accents. As you can tell, my accent is way different from Fernando's. Some people say that I've picked up an Irish accent. I still think I have like a mixed between Irish and American. And other people say that I just have a Spanish accent. So I don't care about my accent. All I
No.
know is that I can speak English. But
What's
if
for
you're
sure is that you don't sound like a Latino. You don't.
all right, that's good then. Thanks.
You sound like I don't know. It's like a combination of American, British, Ireland, even like I would even say Indian. It's like just a mix of that English. You have that. It's unique. Unique.
All right. Thanks. Yeah, it has to have some Irish there, because I've been living in Ireland for a couple of years now, and I work with children, so I've picked up all these Irish idioms. Like they say, like some of them don't say hi, they say well.
Well,
Tell your friend I said well, and at the start I was like, what the hell is well? And then I realized that they say well just to say hi. Like for in America, you'll say what's up. Hey, what's up, dude?
yeah,
Hey, well. So it's not in the whole country now. Ireland is a small country. You'll find accents all around the island. But where I'm based, they use the well to say hi. Well,
yeah,
how are you? So yeah, the only thing I care, and I've told my students, is that I'm able to speak English, and I'm able to hold a conversation at any level with an English speaking person, with a non-Spanish speaking person. And that's the most, like, the more hours of experience you gain, the better your English will become. You
yeah.
know, that's it. We have another question here from Danielle. It's there a great difference between the face-to-face teaching in an academy and a virtual teaching? What is the better way that have you taught English? I have my experience myself. I have experience in a face-to-face environment and on a virtual environment. Myself, I prefer virtual environments,
Yeah.
because I have loads of tools. I can take advantage of loads of accents, and I record my classes, and there are 24/7 classes. We become 24/7 teachers. You can access our videos anytime, and as many times as you want. And there is something called, in Spanish, is presencialidad asistida por tecnologías, which is basically a face-to-face class. That's my method, face-to-face class, but through these platforms. We all have to attend the same time. We try to make it look more likely as a classroom, but it's all virtual based. So answering to Danielle, obviously face-to-face environments have advantages, and online environments have advantages. From the teacher point of view, from the teaching point of view, I prefer virtual, but it's all on the students because I have had these students in class from the bed, light on
and
the bed, and
and
that's, yeah,
from a
from a
student
couch
standpoint,
like this, slouching. That you won't get anything from the class if you do that. That's
yeah.
all is about attitude. But what do you think, Fernando? You do you think it's better face to face or virtual?
Well, you gave the teacher perspective, and I think all of us would agree that virtual is better for us. But I don't know. I think for students, it depends. Like, if you are a child, I think it's better that, well, it's better if you're like face to face or in class, because, children, I believe, learn better hands on. Like, they need to use their hands and stuff like that. And I remember, working with kids, teaching them how to draw the number
¿Cómo
one.
se dice hablar inglés es más?
What is that? Teaching them how to draw number one, or teaching them how to write the color red, RED. And it would be complicated to do that online. There aren't many hands-on activities online. There are a lot of games, but it's not the same, as touching and feeling different things. But with adults, I think it's more convenient for them to take a class online because they don't have to waste money on transportation. In Latin America, at least, you don't have to risk your life going out. And here in Acapulco, it's really hot. You don't have to get to school all sweaty and stuff. Um, you don't have that problem of getting stuck in traffic. And if you have a good internet connection, then the class is really good. You have the teacher and your classmates in your ears, because of your headphones, and you can participate. There's an option where I can put you, or teachers can put you in a private room with another classmate. You can practice one-on-one with them. So I can teach you in a group, and then I can distribute you so you can practice what I have just taught you. And that's the most important thing. Listening, speaking, and having a conversation. Communication. That's the most important thing.
All right, very good. I totally agree with you. Now, sorry, I was closing the tab of Instagram's tab and it went on the audio.
So,
I agree with you. It all depends on the age as well. Yes,
yeah,
yes. If you're thinking about children, I'd say it's better face to face,
right.
100%, especially because they might not know how to use all these tools and technologies and stuff.
Yeah.
We have another question from Franklin Mora. I have tried to watch movies in English, music in English, and podcast in English, and I still can't understand what I hear. How can I improve? You want to give it a go there, Fernando?
Yeah. I want to ask, how much have you tried? A lot of times, um, students read one book or try to read one book and then they give up. They try to watch one movie, they don't like it, they give up. Listen to music one time in English and then they give up. That's not going to work. And at first, I want to say that it's normal. It's normal to not understand everything. Um, I like to talk about experiences when students ask these types of questions. I have another student. Her name was Jackie. Jackie started learning English with me from zero. She didn't know anything, and I gave her and her group classes about 12 months, and then they switched teachers because I was still working at a school, and they decided to change teachers. Rotate teachers. But in that year, um, Jackie improved so much. There were 7 students in that group, and all of them started from zero. But Jackie improved like so much compared to the others. I would say that in those 12 months, all of the students went to B1, but Jackie went to almost a C1 level of English. And I started talking to her. I was like, "What did you do, Jackie?" Like, no, I just watch movies every day, one show every day in English, and I listen to music every day in English. I read books in English. I like, but how you started from zero? How did how did you do that? It's like, well, I took your advice, and she was conscious that if she did these things every day, the first 3 to 6 months, they're hard. You're not going to understand everything, but after those 3 to 6 months, your ear, your eyes, they get used to that they get used to English because of the submersion. So I forgot who asked the question, but I'm gonna go back to
Franklin
the
is his name. Yeah,
Franklin, right?
Franklin. Yeah.
Going back to the original question, how much have you tried? Because I don't think you have tried enough, and you should keep trying. Like, don't give up. Don't give up. And start with easier things. Don't think that you're gonna watch a first movie or watch your first series, like, and you think you're gonna understand everything. No, especially not like if you're watching things like Grey's Anatomy, Big Bang Theory, all of these specialized shows about science, medicine, law. I don't recommend that you watch those. I recommend that you begin with cartoons. Um, think about the audience. If the cartoons are directed to smaller children, then they're gonna have easier English. If the cartoon or the show is directed to like teenagers, it's gonna be more complicated. And if it's directed to adults, it's gonna be even more complicated. And if the audience is dedicated to like scientists, doctors, or lawyers, judges, that's going to be even more hard. That's even going to be like more difficult. So just think about who these shows are made for, and think about your level of English and try to position yourself. Like if you are a beginner, you need to watch like shows for kindergartners. Maybe like the Backyardigans, Dora the Explorer, um, the Backyardigans, Dora the Explorer, Max and Ruby, Clifford the Big Red Dog, the Berenstain Bears. Watch things for children. If you are intermediate, watch things for young, well, preteens or teenagers. And if you're an advanced student, then yes, maybe you can start watching adult shows like maybe The Simpsons, maybe Family Guy, maybe Shrek, and things like that. And if you have like a really, really advanced English level, then you can start watching, shows like The Big Bang Theory, Grey's Anatomy, um, and stuff like that. But think about your level of English and think about what the movie, show, or series is directed to, and try to position yourself. Try to position yourself. The same thing with music. Don't think you're gonna understand Eminem if you have like a beginner's level or intermediate level. I would begin with something, soft, or something from the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, and things like that. Begin with easier stuff, level it down. Once you get comfortable, move up another level.
100%. I hope Franklin feels happy with the answer. If not, you can always ask again. We're nearly coming to the end. I don't know, Fernando, if you want to tell us about your English courses. How many hours per week? How many hours per month? Do you give them a certificate? Again, this is not that Fernando and Hernan are competent each other. No, everybody that follows me, that I am more into politics and journalism than into teaching English. So I've always give advice to my students: follow accounts from different teachers, and if you think that Fernando's courses are good for you, go on and enroll. But Fernando, tell us about them, and what are the timings? Like my courses, for example, I have an academy, I have a virtual academy, and they're mostly at nights, Latin American time at nights. And now I'm going to start throwing some European times, uh, actually at this time, a bit earlier. So it'll be way too early for Latin American students. So, how about yours? How are your courses?
Well, My classes, I have a program called Free Friday. So we only take classes from Monday to Thursday, 1 hour and 15 minutes every day, 5 hours a week. That's like 20, 23 hours per month. And my classes, they are, well, we use the communicative approach. So what we do is we learn a little bit about everything. We practice our listening, our reading, our writing and speaking, but we focus a lot on speaking and writing. Producing the language so that you can communicate well. And that's what I like, and I feel proud about that because a lot of schools they only teach you from the book. You just have to read and listen. But in my classes, everything is really interactive. I explain a topic, and then you go into the breakout rooms and practice. At the end of the course, I do certify students, but only if you are in Mexico, because I don't know if I can do it to people. I don't know if I can do that for people who are outside of the country. Because what we go through a process here. I prepare you for the test. You take the test and you get certified. Usually with the TOEFL. So if you are in Mexico, then that's easy. But if you are like in the United States or Canada or in South America, usually I prepare you for the test, and then you find your own testing site in your country, because I can't, tell you about a testing site because I don't live there. I don't have the connections. But here in Mexico, I do have the connections, and I can certify my students, my Mexican students at least. And yeah, that's pretty much it about my courses. And I teach students from the beginner levels, intermediate, advanced, professional levels. Um, I always if I always like test my students' level to make sure that everybody that is in a group has the same level. I don't want anybody that's too advanced or too low. I want everybody to be on the same level so they can, so their classes can be smooth. Um, and yeah, that's it. So if anybody's interested, send me a message. I can evaluate your English, tell you a little bit more details about the courses, and maybe you can enroll into one of the courses.
Very good, Fernando. Just one last question about it. How big are the classes?
Like how big are the groups?
Yes, how big? Yeah.
I'm usually managing groups from 8 to 14 students. I try not to have more than 14 students in a group because I want to make sure that I get to know everybody personally, and I can meet everyone's needs. 8 to 14.
Okay, very good. That's very similar to what I have. So we have the same concept. Mine are from 10 to 15 as well. I don't like bigger than that because then the process will be it won't be as good if you can say it's good. All right. Okay, we're coming to an end. So if you have any questions, please throw them there on the chat because we're nearly finishing. We have about 10 more minutes. Fernando, what from the methods, from the teaching English methodologies, do you stick to one of them? Like, I don't know. I remember back in the days talking about TKT, for example. I remember the PPP, presentation, practice, production,
Yeah.
TBL, and all these. Then the CLIL came into the game, and then
Yeah.
it was content learning, interaction from other areas and whatever. Do you stick to them? I do get loads of questions from teachers and or people that are becoming teachers in Latin America, and they ask me what methodology can I use. I don't really stick to them, so I'm never able to answer that question because they come with some expectations, and then I throw them out. I don't really stick to them. So what's your case then?
I've had the fortune to train teachers. I've trained about 60 teachers, and I always tell them the same thing. Like, there is no um, go to method or go to strategy, go to approach. You have to be eclectic. You have to use a little bit of everything depending on your students. Maybe some students they learn, they prefer a lexical approach. Some students they prefer, a PPP, like you said, presentation, practice, production. Others prefer task-based learning, doing like things like acting it out in real life. And you have to have a mixture. You have to know your students. And maybe today we're going to do a little bit of PPP. Today we're going to do a little bit of TBL. Tomorrow we're going to do a little bit of CLIL, and just have a mixture to make sure that you touch everybody's needs. Um, Obviously, the most important thing is communication. So as long as you have some type of communication in all of your classes, you should be good. But you need to have variety in your classes. You can't just stick to one approach or one method or one strategy. You have to be eclectic. You have to be dynamic, flexible. What do you think, Hernan?
I also, sorry, now the camera. I also think I'm with you. I mean, like, I don't have, the teaching does not come with a manual. That's it. It
Yeah,
it all depends on the group. It all depends on the learning styles. It all depends on the topic. Um, yeah, I think that we can't stick to one methodology or to one teaching approach. I think we also, as teachers, we develop our own approach. Yeah, like I used all the traditional methods, and then I mixed them with technologies, and then I mixed them with the way we think,
yeah,
and bring in the complex thinking paradigm, in which evaluates the way human thinks and
exactly.
humans, sorry. And I mean, like, we can just split things or separate them. I think everything goes together, and especially when you're communicating, everything is together, right? So you
Yeah,
can't, I mean, teaching languages, that's why it's so good, because any topic can fit into your planning, into your lesson plan. Everything can fit. It doesn't matter what the subject is. When I remember when I used to teach in schools, I would come with any topic to my class, and then my students will go, "This is not a math class," and I'm like, "No, it's English, and I'm teaching math in English, so I can still do it."
yeah, exactly,
They
exactly.
have no excuse. Teacher, this is not math. I'm not assessing maths. I'm assessing English, but math is my topic,
Yeah,
because when you teach languages, everything goes with languages. So yeah, I don't really look at the approach, and I don't really look at the methodologies or whatever. It is important to have them here now. And what I never focus on, it's pronunciation.
okay.
I have got some critics uh by that, because teachers, you're teaching wrong, and I'm like, no, they're not going to learn to pronunciate because of me. The
Yeah, yeah. Everybody
pronunciation.
has different things. Like I focus a lot on pronunciation. I'm not gonna lie, but I don't care if they have an accent as long as they pronounce words correctly.
Yeah, that's it. That's the same. I mean, like, if you're pronouncing whatever word the way, whatever way you're pronouncing it, if you're telling me something different now, I would have to interrupt and say, okay, come on, this is. I mean, like, for example, the word shit or shed. That there is a big difference between putting something into the shed or taking a shit, right? There
Yeah,
is a big difference between them two. So now, if they get them wrong, that's very common. Or going to the beach, and the female or
yeah,
dog, it's way too different now. But if there is not much different, because the way I look at it is that they won't learn how to pronunciate because of Hernan. They will learn how to pronunciate because of YouTube, because of Hernan, because of Fernando. And it's a mix of everything. Whatever they listen to in English, that's adding some value into their pronunciation. So that's why I don't focus, because when you focus, my experience now, I'm not saying that nothing is set in stone, but my experience is that if you focus on pronunciation and you keep on interrupting your class to correct pronunciation, they will get blocked.
exactly. Yes,
And
yes.
that's why we have thousands of students that have studied English for 10 years, and they still can't speak English. That's just
Totally agree.
unacceptable.
Yeah. Like when I teach pronunciation, like I take notes of their mistakes, and then once the activity's finished, then I tell, okay, class, I heard this. You're not supposed to pronounce it like this. You're supposed to pronounce it like this, but I try not to interrupt ever, because it impedes fluency, like you said.
100%. Yes, yes, yeah. So that's just my approach. Like, I don't really have an approach, like a set approach, but in terms of pronunciation, that's a must. Like, I don't we're doing a reading activity, for example, nothing's harder than reading aloud if you're not familiar with the microphone and with the camera.
Yeah,
And now having a teacher correcting you every 3 words, or repeating a word after you mispronounced it, that's just not gonna work. Like, that's just useless. But
yeah,
that's my way of thinking, that, and that's why I do it, because it has worked for me. But Fernando might do it different, or other teachers around the globe might think it's different. So everybody has an approach, and
yeah,
students do identify with our approaches. That's
definitely,
100%. Yeah.
definitely, definitely.
we I want to go back with what you were saying, just to finish now, Fernando, to what you were saying to Franklin about the times, and how much experience or how much effort you put into it. I do want to add that they recommend 2 hours every day, 2 hours every day of English exposure, at least. That could be on an English class, that could be YouTube, that could be serious, that could be anything. But if you do 2 hours a day, you'll make it. and
Definitely.
and it's not 2 hours of lecturing, it's not 2 hours of taking notes. It's, if when you're driving, instead of putting your reggaeton, your Daddy Yankee, go on with YouTube, go on with podcasts, go on with audiobooks. Do use the shadowing technique, get a book, get the audiobook, read, and at the same time listen to what you're reading, and that will work. I would say. Now, Fernando, the last thing what I was on about is, what do you think about these colleagues, these teachers that promise that they will bring a student from zero English to advanced English with a native pronunciation in 3 or 6 months?
Oh my god, I always talk about that topic. They're scammers. Don't believe them. That's not gonna happen. Even if I have a lot of polyglot friends, and they say that it's impossible. Like, unless you're gonna spend like 8 hours every day on that language, it's gonna be impossible to master it in 6 months. And 3 months, it's not possible at all. In 3 months, if you're starting from zero, and let's say you dedicate 2 hours every day, you might reach like a pre-intermediate level. But yeah, guys, like, don't fall for those marketing schemes. Like, they're smart. They know that Latinos, we are impatient. Most people are impatient in general, but Latinos, we definitely are impatient. And and most of us have had bad experiences in with learning English, because the teachers in Latin America, especially in public schools, most of them don't really care about teaching. They don't know a lot of English, so they manipulate us. They say, okay, well, they have been teaching you wrong all this time, and I'll teach you how to learn English in 3 months. So they attack you with on your weaknesses. They know you are impatient. They know you have had a bad experience, so they tell you that they have a different method and that you can learn really fast. But don't fall for that. Don't fall for those schemes. It's not. They're not good. They're not reliable. What do you think,
Very
Hernán?
good. Oh yeah, I totally agree with you. Like, studies have said. So this is what when people ask me, not even talking about them, but when people ask me, how long will it take me to learn English? I'm like, look, if you want to make it, if you want to be able to afford paying whatever as English school you want, you'll be after getting 4 to 6 hours of English every week in class. That won't be enough. Not a hope. That won't be enough. So you have to put effort yourself. You
Yeah,
have to watch videos. You have to go watch series. That's why people come to these countries to learn English. They don't learn English in the academy. They learn English out in the street. That's it. So learning a language, it's about time in hours. It's not about time in months or days.
exactly.
So they say that it's about 1,500 hours, 1,500 hours if you want
Okay.
to become a C1 from A1. All right. So they say, what they say is that it's about 200 hours per level, 200 hours for A1, 200 for A2, B1, B2, C1, C2.
Exactly.
And so if you're able to do the 200 hours in 2 months, you're becoming A2 in 2 months. So you'll be B1 after 6 months. But like Fernando, if he attends to my classes, for example, I give class, my classes are Mondays and Wednesdays from 7 to 9, or Tuesdays and Thursdays from 7 to 9. And then I give them enough material for them to study at least for another 6 hours per week. So they'll be, whoever enrolls in my classes, they'll be after having 40 hours per month. So that's why each level with me it's 4 months, because each level will be 160 hours.
Wow,
But
it's the same thing with me.
if you do the 160 hours in 2 weeks, fair play to you. Like you'll be outstanding. Like you were saying before, the student that was in zero English and after a year became fluent
Yeah,
because she was watching movies, she was reading, and she was doing things in English. She didn't stick to what Fernando gave her in class. So there is no way, not a chance, not a hope that one teacher will be able to bring you from A1 to B2 in 6 months. Nope.
definitely.
And not in with a native accent. The only people that get a native accent are the ones that were born in that specific place, or the ones that grew up with the language. That's it. After you're an adult, you're not getting a native accent. I'm sorry to say this now, but linguists have proved it. Studies have proved it. Scientific research has proved it. It's about your brain. It's about neurosciences. I mean, like, that's not gonna happen. We have to feel
Definitely.
proud. We have to feel proud that we are Spanish speakers as a native language, or whatever your native language is, and feel proud that you're making an effort to learn a second language. That's it. You're not going to become native. And if you're becoming native, that won't happen in 6 months. I've been speaking English for 20 years now, 21, and I'm still not native.
Yes,
Or
yes.
I'm either too stupid, or that's just not possible. Like,
Nah, come on, you're very intelligent, man. Now,
so
I wanted to add to what you said. You know, Hernan said that it takes about 1,500 hours to, really master the lingo. Consider yourself fluent in that language. So the most logical, the most comfortable, reliable, consistent way that you can reach that level is like 2 hours every day for 2 years. You
yeah,
know, then you'll have like, your 1,500 hours. So in 2 years, if you dedicate 2 hours every day, then you should have like a C1 level. And maybe you're not going to sound like a native, but you'll be able to participate in virtually any conversation in English. So, it's just a matter of time. Do you have those 2 hours? My student Jackie, the one I was talking about earlier, she had 4, 6, 7 hours every day. So, she exploded, but she's a young girl. She was 16, 17. She
yeah,
only had to go to school and take English classes. So
that's it. Like, yeah,
yeah, she had the opportunity, and not everybody has opportunity. Some of us, we have spouses, we have children, we have pets, sick family, we have a lot of responsibilities. Understand your reality and set realistic goals.
yeah, that's it. And never give up. And remember that we have income and output. All right. If input, sorry, not income, input and output. The input is basically listening and reading. Listen and read as much as you can, but don't forget about your output. Don't forget to talk, and don't forget to write. A good activity is to write, I don't know, 100 or 200 words every day. 100 or 200 words, that's not even a page, lads. That's half a page. That's 2 paragraphs.
Yeah,
Right? Make a reflection about your day. How did your day go? What
definitely.
happened throughout your day? What do you want to change? What's the goal for tomorrow? What are the plans for next week? Do it in English, but do it in a written way. Write every day. No, don't worry about it if you're doing it right or wrong. When we were back in school, when we were in kindergarten or whatever, how did we write? How long did it take us to write properly? It only happened like when we went to fourth grade, kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's when it happened. We were like 9 years old, and that's how long it took us to write and speak properly.
That's true.
So that's it. I think we're done for the day. Don't leave. Fernando will finish the live. I never say this when I'm live, but it had happened to me that I finish the live and then whoever I'm interviewing or whoever I'm chatting with leaves as well. So stay for a minute. But I want to throw a last video from Fernando's Instagram. Don't forget English with Fernando, lads. Go and follow him. This one about the broom.
This is a broom. The verb is to sweep. You sweep the debris into the dustpan. This is a mop. The verb is to mop. This is a broom.
Okay, guys. So don't forget, escoba. How do you say escoba in Mexico? It's escoba.
Escoba, yeah.
Yeah.
How do you say it in
Broom, mop, trapero. How do you say it in Mexico?
Trapeador.
Trapeador. Okay. And in Spain they say fregadora.
Fregadora. What?
And
For
if
us,
they
a
want
fregadora is the shower head.
the shower head. Oh my God. In Colombia, don't ever call a girl fregadora. Nunca le digas a una mujer fregadora o fregona. Because they also call in Spain, they also call the mop, la trapeadora también le dicen fregona. And if they're mopping, they say fregar el suelo. We say trapear.
Fregar is like annoy, no?
A fregar is annoyed, yes.
Interesting.
So if I say, Fernando, ya fregaste el suelo, te estoy preguntando que trapeaste el suelo, no que si lo molestaste.
Yeah.
All right. So once again, Gustavo, Daniel, everybody that has been on this live, don't forget follow Fernando, follow me if you haven't, and wait for the next teaching talk. It'll be hopefully next week with some other teacher from around the globe. Thanks a million again. Thanks a million, Fernando. Don't forget to stay.
Fernando, for having me. It's a pleasure.